Hello, everybody. My name is Min, and I'm your host from NDIS Property Australia here at the STA Housing Podcast. And this is part 2 of our luxury respite accommodation topic because our last recording, where there was Debbie, myself, Nat, and Storm, one of the microphones didn't work properly. So Storm's mic wasn't very clear, and we've asked her to come back today to do another recording. I was going to do a re-recording of that episode. However, it's been published 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there's a fair bit of downloads on that already.
Oh, wow.
So even if we did replace that audio with this new audio, we'll probably get another 20 or 30 only, or 40 more. So I'm going to treat this as a secondary backup, follow-up to that original. So that way we can repeat some of those topics we covered last time, Storm, but then also go a little bit further about your life experience as well. So if you don't mind, if that's okay with you, just an element of your struggles as a parent with a child in the NDIS or going to be in the NDIS, and how that means for people who, like yourself as a parent, and what it means to actually have at your disposal an STA or MTA kind of product out there in the marketplace. So with your permission, ladies, Natalie, Storm, we'll go part 2, moving on from here.
Sounds fantastic.
Okay.
Let's go.
So, Storm, who are you?
Well, my name is Storm, and I'm the hostess of Luxury Respite Escapes. And we have 3 luxury properties, various price points. And we work closely with you and your company in providing accommodation for people who are under the NDIS program. And that can either be the participants themselves, the recipients, or their carers, or them and their families. And we've got the three very different properties, which I can talk through later. And as you said, we've talked about last time. And I'm the hostess with the mostess. So I look after and greet my guests, and if they have any needs or special requests while they're staying, I love looking after them and create an experience.
Nat,
Yes, ma'am.
You've come from Adelaide, support coordinator role, other support services.
Done this, that, and the other.
Yeah. I mean, you've been around. How long have you been?
In the nicest possible way.
With all due respect, yes.
You just made me feel so old. Thank you very much. I have been in the sector for about 15 plus years. Most of that experience, was in South Australia,
Yes.
but I've been on the carer side. I've also been on the person with the living with a disability as well. So loads of experience.
So 15 years experience, but NDIS has only been around for 4 or 5 years or so. So prior to the NDIS, what was it like in South Australia with no NDIS system?
It was dreamy because we were for providers, it was dreamy because we had money basically thrown at us. So we were government funded. So you could run a lot of programs, provide a lot of respite. And then obviously when we heard about the NDIS and we were like, oh my God, what is this? What is that going to look like? How is that going to affect everyone? And then you see a lot of organisations scrambling, thinking, oh my God, freaking out. They're going to lose money. They're going to lose people because the control was then going to be in the hands of the participant. So they had the choice and control of where they, receive their supports and services from. Whether that's, community access or in-home care, personal care, etc., housing. And, sorry, Min's just reminding me to make my mouth close to the microphone. So I've been, right from the word go when the NDIS was rolling out, and, it's constantly changing. I think we're still, struggling our way through and keeping up with all the updates that happen.
Sure. So with all these changes, so 5 years ago, 15 years ago, for those 10 years that you worked in the sector, there was no SDA, there was no MTA, there was no STA, correct?
Correct. There was respite.
Yes.
There was, accommodation.
So respite back then in the old system, is that the same as respite now, or is it different?
No, it's the same.
Same,
It's
yes.
just back in the day, it was government funded.
Yes.
So there's still a portion of government funding So you can call the carers gateway and you can go through them to be able to receive emergency respite. So that can only go for like a 2-week period. Whereas back in the day when we were government funded, you could have a lot more respite.
But back then, emergency respite sounds different from our respite now, Storm.
I was just, as you were saying that, I'm thinking the last time I put my mum in for respite, it's into a hospital aged care type respite facility. Is that the kind of respite there was, or what kind of respite was there?
It was a mixture. I mean, there were still organisations who have been around for 60 to 80 years. So they had a lot of properties that they owned outright. And so they're already using that as accommodation for the people that they support. And then they would have places like, farm stay, which was a respite specific accommodation for people living with a disability. But the funding stream was different back then.
But that's what's I find really exciting about, what you're doing here is just because someone has a disability or is on NDIS, and whether that disability is physical or emotional or mental, why should they not have the same access to luxury escapes? And I remember, you telling me a few weeks ago about you went to Guns N' Roses concert and there was a quadriplegic on
A horizontal bed.
horizontal bed. That person loves Guns N' Roses, and why should they not be able to go to a Guns N' Roses concert? And why? And I think that's where why I'm so excited about what we're doing with these luxury escapes, is that we are normalising, instead of calling it respite, whilst it is, but creating adventures and tours and providing all the things that are needed surrounding that. If you go to a luxury travel agent, and they do all the, they book the tickets and they book the car and they have the taxi pick you up, and they, then there's a chef organised and meals are organised and the tickets you are delivered to your house. And, that to me is the difference as opposed to just respite. Going to a house that's purpose-built perhaps, but it's really just getting out of same.
So I just want to pull back the word respite again, and just use my common sense approach here. Back in the day, many, many years ago in South Australia, as an example, you say emergency respite. So I can imagine back then what that was. It was really emergency respite. And now in the last few years, 3-4 years now, this word respite now coming out. And we've all seen online, Facebook and other Instagram and LinkedIn's, respite being done out there in the marketplace around Australia now seems to be more of a, we'll manage your holiday on the cruise or to the beach or to, that's what's out there, right? And which is fine, which is more adventure events kind of thing. But what we're trying to discuss here about the luxury respites that you and John are working on is a little bit more different. It's, at the end of the day, you need a dwelling to do this service. And, what's lacking out there is providers who understand this respite service or accommodation to provide what the participants want. And right now, there are so many participants out there, 4.5 million in Australia, by the way, which is 1/6 to 1/5 of the population. And I don't know what they really want. We can't cater for everyone, and not everyone's funded, by the way. But if we can change one life at a time, right, with one dwelling, one evening, one weekend away at a time, that's all that matters most, our common goal. And the purpose of this podcast is to bring awareness to the community that this exists. So to all you providers out there who are providing care, you should let your participants know about this other thing called respite accommodation service that they can tap into, their funding. For all those other, participants who are out there living at home with mum and dad and are going nowhere and are not really doing much, not living their lives, they could consider something else. So all those other services around Australia doing those tours or trekking or the beach programs, that's nice. It's nice. Group events, by the way, group events. But sometimes people do want their time alone, just 2 days, 3 days by themselves in a nice new place and enjoy their trip to the city by themselves or to the library, to the shops, whatever. Yeah.
And that is exactly true. And look, I was just sharing personally something with Natalie just then. My daughter we're applying for NDIS funding. She has ASD, ADHD, OCD, and severe depression, and she's 14. And it is, as a carer, exhausting. And I was just mentioning that my husband has gone away in business and he's taken her with her. And I adore my daughter, but dear Lord, the last 24 hours has just been bliss. There's been the anxiety is not there. It is almost a respite care for me, and this is the thing. And having a number of friends who have similar situations with family members, sometimes it'd be nice to go away for something special with your family that is under NDIS, or the carers, the parents who are caring 24/7, or the carers that are employed, giving them a break, because that funding is there and it has to be used. And if it's not used, it's used up. But you need that little bit of luxury because you need that hope. And I think that's something that John and I really want to provide with the 3 properties is we understand. He has the properties. We understand what you need. And it is that sense of luxury, that sense of peace, that sense of even being able to do something fun with the person you're caring for that you don't normally do. Not just getting away and having a break, but actually enjoying that time with them.
Nat, why does the government provide funding for this? I mean, we know, but from a point of view of, well, health and wellness, mental health, break for the carer, break for the business. Why does government allow? Let me rephrase it. If I was a cynical person and say, why the hell would the government put money out to pay for someone to take a break? Please answer the question.
Well, first of all, we've got to make sure that there's a clear difference between, going on a holiday and what respite is, and then also further on, like about, short-term accommodation and medium-term accommodation. So respite these days is emergency respite. So that can go for a max period of like 2 weeks. So say you're caring for somebody, you're on the verge, you're on the edge of the mountain and you're about to have that burnout, that carer burnout, then you can go through the carer gateway and request emergency respite, but it is not ongoing. It's like a one-off thing, whereas back in the day when we were government funded, you could, come back to, respite, multiple times.
But this carer gateway service for the carer to avoid his burnout.
Yes.
That funding comes from the carer gateway funding from government or the participants funding? What are we talking about here?
No, from government funded.
Okay.
Yeah. And don't quote me on this, but I want to say federal government. But it's been a while since I've been in the respite space. And it can also be quite tricky for people to admit that they need a break and to have time out, because it's almost, and a lot of people are trying to sway away from the old term respite and talk more about, having time, for myself or, self-care,
Well,
self-love.
hold that thought. Storme, as a parent
Yes.
of a 14-year-old daughter, is it easy or hard for you to step away and have a break for yourself?
Oh,
Let me rephrase it. How many times in the last 14 years have you had a break away from your daughter for more than 2-3 days or a week?
I haven't.
So you've been 24/7 care for her.
24/7, and caring for my elderly mother who was also under financial assistance as well. So I have not had a break, and that's what I was saying. Today I'm getting the first time in 14 years a 2-week break because my husband, we're together, is taking her away, and he's done that because he can see I'm at breaking point. I didn't even recognise it, and I think this is the thing as carers, you don't recognise when you're exhausted because you are constantly running on adrenaline.
You're so close to it as well.
Yeah.
And it's until you have a break that you really see, what's been going on.
And the guilt.
Yeah.
The guilt as well as a carer. You think, I can't leave them because I know they'll, and already I was since they've been gone 24 hours, I've contacted 5 times. Has she taken her medication? Has she done this? Now make sure you pack this for her because she'll get upset. So even as a carer, it's really hard if you don't get out of your environment and into something a little bit more surreal like luxury, to actually stop the constant, I have to do this then all the time.
So what's stopped you from reaching out to like the Carer Gateway to
Someone.
request some emergency respite? Is it because you were completely unaware of it, or you just felt like, that ownership, it's my daughter, so I don't feel I have the right to ask for help?
I think there's a number of things. Is one, you don't want to feel like you're abandoning the person you're caring for, and I think as a parent or a carer even, you feel if they've got enough problems of their own and they're hurting enough that you don't want to walk away from them. Yeah. I think the lack of knowledge of the system, it is such a complicated system to get around, and to understand what you can have and what you can't have is so it's probably a little bit of ignorance. And the third thing is I don't have the time to organise something. And again, that's where coming back to with Min and Debbie, being able to ring Debbie and say, right, this is what we need. Can you please do it? Because I'll tell you what, I don't have the energy to sit down and say, okay, let's take the kids to Movie World. Let's go to the Gold Coast for 5 days and let's go and have some fun together instead of the constant care and that. But I've then got to book flights, you've got to book accommodation, the tickets. Where's the break in that? So I think that's again where these luxury respite is so exciting, because we need someone to care for us. And that's what you guys are doing with this system, these luxury respites, is that you will organise it all and we can just pack a case and have someone else care for us. And that's the difference, is if you just go and have respite, there's still no one caring for you, and you've still got to mentally be there.
Yeah. And just for the record, this respite funded by the government is a respite for the carer or the participant or the parents. So either.
No. So that's I think where you're getting kind of a little bit mixed up. So when it comes to emergency respite, that is specifically for the carer. So somebody caring for somebody living with a disability or somebody caring for their elderly parents. If the participant is looking to have a stay somewhere, it's generally because it's a part of their NDIS plan. Right. So it's linked to an NDIS goal. Yes. So part of their goal might be, I want to, be supported to, have a night out with friends and be able to stay somewhere independently from my parents, for example. Then these luxury Airbnbs that Storme manages would be absolutely perfect for this scenario. Yes. Yeah. So that's where the funding comes from for that.
Yep, that's right.
Emergency respite, that goes through the Carer Gateway. So does that make sense to you?
I acknowledge that.
Yes.
I also thought, reading from all the information from the NDIS and the short-term combination section, that the participant can also provide a break, respite for their carer from their own funds as well. That's the way I read it. Now, I could be wrong, But have you ever read that at all anywhere?
No.
Because I don't dispute what you say with the carer gateway and respite for the carers. That's I know it's separate. I know that.
Yeah.
But if you look into, again, we'll check this out today or tomorrow. But if you look into the wording, it is covered for the carer as well.
I would, I'd have to get you to show me that because it's always been like, the funding that participants have in their plan is specifically for them and their needs. It's not meant to be spent on anybody else. So
let me dig it up for you. And
I'm curious about
I've read it so many times, a lot of places. But look, the reality is they probably won't even spend it on the care anyway. So that's a big point anyway.
But on the positive of that, whilst we're clarifying that, let's just take 2 of my properties. I've got the Sinclair, beautiful luxury 4-bedroom apartment, multi-million-dollar apartment in East Brisbane, right next to the Gabba. So if you want to go to Pink concert next year, and you have the NDIS participant and the parents go, and there's the tickets organised and the meals organised and there's transport organised and the flights are organised and all of that still falls in under what we're talking about.
The carer goes, so it can't be parent and participant. The parents cannot be there to provide the care. It must be a carer and participant. Yes, if mum and dad are tagging along on the side, that's okay. Yeah.
Or they may be the carers and need additional carer. Yes. So that's where the family can go, and I see that as still, while we're clarifying that, that's where you can still have the mum and dad who are the carer, or an additional carer, because if you need 24/7 help.
What might help this conversation is to swap out the term carer and replace that with support worker.
Yes.
Support, yeah.
Because people tend to get very confused around like...
Did you both see the Courier Mail article a month ago?
Yes.
Did you see that article?
The one where...
It's actually on my wall there. I'll bring it out to you later. I'll do it. It's a Courier Mail spread, Gold Coast high rise, the beach there, and it says, the heading was... we're paying $15,000 for their holiday, right? That's what it said. And it broke down all the numbers, and the taxpayers were we. And how dare they spend that?
And if they bought it privately, it would cost half the price.
Now, it didn't even mention the fact that the sport workers' wages are part of that cost. And food and activities and. It was a little bit unfair the way the
It was a very negative. And look, I shouldn't say this, but most people will look at that and just read it and not understand and investigate. Of course, if you are just going and booking a holiday, of course you can do it at half the price. But they didn't, as you're saying, they didn't include the 24/7 carers cost that is there. They didn't include the all the other added things that someone with a disability needs. And that's the big thing, and that's where it was most people who certainly not in the system or have no understanding would look at that and say, oh, what's all this? But I want to add as well, with the NDIS system, and it's like our aged care population, this is why the government actually wants older people to stay at home and have care at home, because the Australian system could not care for all people on NDIS or on aged care if they went into a facility. So they have to push back. So this NDIS funding isn't, it's not that we're paying for it. It'd probably be a lot more if all those people had to go and, we used to have many years ago in Beechworth, the Beechworth Mental Institution. So I also had an aunt who was severely disabled mentally, and she lived in Beechworth in a facility. That cost the government a whole lot more money than what it does now, having the people living at home with care at home. And that's what they're not putting in that article.
politics.
I want to go back to, for our listeners to understand, funding. Like, people don't realise how much money some participants get funding for. I'll give you an example. I hear all these stories, and this is a reality check for everyone. You might have a person who, I hear a lot of stories in Melbourne, right? Psychosocial, very aggressive, very violent, 21-year-old, cannot share with anyone else, must be in a robust house, has 2 carers with him at all times, 24/7. So it's 8-hour shifts, two. There's 6 support workers per day. Self-harm, right? He'd be on a $1.2 million package.
They didn't put that in the article in the career mail.
Yeah. So
but they are very few and far in between scenarios.
yeah, I know, but
A lot of people living with a disability are still being under.
yes. The average is 75 to 80 grand package across Australia for funding, right? It's average. But still, the point is that $1.2 million funding plus the accommodation funding as well of 45, 50 grand a year, right? That's a lot of money for one person. I have another story. Adapt Housing told me how they have a participant in the Gold Coast hospital ward, 18 years old. It costs the government $3-4 million a year. Why? Because he destroys everything in the hospital ward, windows, blinds, cupboards, doors. They have to close the entire ward off to have him looked after, 24/7 care. The only way is to get him out into a robust house in Logan, 4-bedroom house, 24/7 care, 2-3 carers at any one time, which is 60, 80 grand a year, cheaper than $6 million a year in the hospital.
Min, you are opening up a can
Yeah, no.
full of worms right now, my friend.
Can I add though? There's another thing, and this is something to think about funding. You know, when we talk about, as taxpayers, we're paying for that. Yeah. So the reality of again, I'll use a personal experience. Okay, so my daughter sees the psychiatrist once a week, the psychologist. That's $400 for one. The other is $250. Then we have occupational therapy. It costs us $1,000 a week to support currently, and we're currently providing that. So I'm working full time to basically provide the care for my daughter. Now,
And your daughter's not in the US yet?
so I pay that personally. So we are trying to get on the NDIS because I will get burnout. But what my goal is, and this is what I've said to the psychiatrist and psychologist, she's a really smart, she's a gifted musician, and most gifted people are on the spectrum. But my goal in the next 10 years is to, through hopefully with the NDIS funding, provide a young adult who has learnt the skills and abilities to manage her mental health, that she can then go out into the workforce and sustain a job and earn an income and not live off the government for the rest of her life. So the NDIS funding that we may provide will help us help her be a normal functioning adult in society that will not be living on social benefits for the rest of their life. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, but this is where, as a community, we have to care for people, and what we want is them to have a job and have a life and to live their best life.
But imagine like the thousands and thousands of people who can't work, who live in rural areas.
Absolutely.
Just,
no support.
Yeah, hardly any support. But one of the biggest issues I think facing the sector is not only, there are still flaws within the NDIS system itself, but service providers need to step up and start investing in their support workers to become more experienced so that they can support people like your daughter to flourish, to thrive, and to become an independent woman.
Exactly, and have skills that she can then contribute back to society.
I mean, you can have $1 million package.
Yep.
But if you don't have the right supports, that money means nothing. So it's really about, working with all your supports from a holistic approach and, identifying what it is exactly that you need support with.
Yes.
What are the goals that you want to achieve? And how can we utilise this funding in a very smart way to achieve those goals?
And that is where the funding, it's not taking it off taxpayers' money, because what it is it's providing care for people so that they can become functioning, contributing adults. And I can only talk from a teenage point.
Slightly dependent on the medical and hospital systems.
Exactly. Yeah. So they will be using less money in the future. There's the cases you're talking about are extreme, and they're a very small percentage. Yeah. The majority of our people who are on this funding, if we can give them the skills and the abilities and the care now, then they can contribute back to society and be less pressure.
Early intervention is not just for, 0 to 5.
Exactly.
Early intervention is every step of everyone's life's transitional stages. We need to be there for every, step along the way.
There was another article the other day on ADHD, and they were saying the rise in ADHD, which isn't under NDIS funding, but it is all part of mental health care, is becoming really prominent in 40 and 50 age groups. So a lot of these people have struggled, because I know some of them, have really struggled with working in life, in staying employed. So they're on disability pensions, they're on the dole and all sorts of other things, because they didn't have exactly what you just said, is that early intervention provided with having the care and having carers and people who are looking after them around them at a certain age, and you need money to do that.
And it's not just that, but it's also the systems working together.
Exactly.
So the NDIS and the medical and hospital systems working together, not trying to place blame on either or. It's like we all need to work collaboratively. And if we don't all start doing this, then people continuously fall through the gaps of the system, and it just pisses me off to no end. It's like, it's not like disability or psychosocial disabilities, intellectual disabilities is something new. This has been going on for since the day of dawn, So how are we in 2023 with people who are still in hospitals long term and not in the right living arrangement?
Exactly.
STA, robust or high physical support, or improved.
And it's costing the government more money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then the government also throws money at things like, building a massive, complex, for COVID, which is sitting empty right here in Queensland, which should be gifted to NDIS participants or homelessness.
But that then brings us back to, again, with this luxury respite care, is we have a system there that we can care for the carers, care for the participants, create a great life, because they also need joys in their life so that they can, as I say, come to the Sinclair with their carers and a support team, and someone's organised, Min's company has organised it all, and you can just turn up and they feel normal.
Everyone needs some fun in their life.
You've got to have fun, and then that again contributes, because they're coming back later in life and living a life that is much fuller. So again, that coming back to that article and saying, well, the NDIS, I could have organised it at half the price, but they didn't include all the carers and all the stuff around it, because they have no understanding and they don't want people to understand. They just want to create controversy. So I come to the Duchess, come to the Sinclair, come to Ancassa, and let us look after you, and let us give you a time away, and 3 different price points, because some people are on more funding than others. And so we've got the Duchess, which is 6 bedrooms. Then we've got East Brisbane, which is in between, that's 4 bedrooms. And then we've got a fantastic 2-bedroom luxury apartment right opposite the train station. So if you can't drive, you can't hear the train, it's on the other side. But, again, it's on that lower price point, but still feels luxurious. And, the reviews we get all the time is, I just feel so cared for. I feel like I have been away for a week and it's been 2 days. And that's what people need. Because we're also, if we don't provide that luxury to the participants and the carers, they're going to end up burning out and putting more pressure on the government system. And this is
to experience different things throughout our lives. Absolutely. And not everyone, has that accessible to them. So if we can play a part by working collaboratively to be able to, offer these awesome opportunities, it can only have a positive flow-on effect.
Absolutely. And again, as a carer, there's no point in me burning myself out so much that I end up in Belmont. Then I'm. Do you know what I mean? And I don't say that negatively, but if I don't get away sometimes with my daughter and be able to have some joy with her, I'm going to become part of the system. Yeah. And this is where, again, when we're talking about the NDIS funding, people need to look at it holistically and not just, my taxpayers' money's paying for them to go on a luxury away resort. No, they're not. They're
conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, they're providing mental health support so that person can have some joys and the carers can have some joys, and that we don't all end up on the system.
It's actually really quite bloody hard to get, respite, emergency respite as a carer. It can be really difficult for people to access the NDIS. These things are not, easy to do or easy to achieve. Money is not just being spent frivolously. It's for a purpose, and it's to ensure, like you said, that people have a more fulfilled life. Exactly. And that's a human right.
It's a human right, and we all have to be kind to this world, and let's stop thinking about all the money. Stop judging people, because if we don't do these things, we're going to end up having more and more and more people. If it's not on NDIS funding, it'll be on disability funding. It'll be on other things, because we have to do it. And the other thing Min mentioned last time is, if the money isn't spent at the end of the year, then they lose it.
The participant will likely get less funding.
Exactly.
Following, or they just roll it over, so they get the exact same. Yeah. But yes, generally, because it is at the core of the NDIS, it is an insurance scheme. So if you don't use it, you lose it. Exactly.
So and you mentioned the word insurance then. I think ringing Debbie and saying, we need a break. We need, as a family, as carers, we need something, we need help. What do you want to do? Oh, you know what, my daughter would love to go to the Pink concert next year. Right, we will organise it. What's the disability? What are the special needs? What are the things that you need? We're going to organise all that, and that's part of the care package. It's not a luxury thing. It's part of a care package, and organising it all. And that's what we don't have time. I haven't had a holiday in years, because you don't have time to organise that. Yeah. So I think it's an insurance policy against better mental health care in our community. But maybe I'm too pragmatic.
No, you're bang on. Yeah.
What do you think, Min?
It's got to be quiet.
You've got two passionate women here, passionate about caring for these people.
There's 3 different things here. So we can utilise these luxury escapes.
Yes.
For respite for carers. Yes. So whether they choose to take their loved one or not, I guess is up to them. I don't want to speak on behalf of like Carer Gateway or Carers Queensland as to what their rules and regulations are. Then you have short-term accommodation and medium-term accommodation. So those two would fall under NDIS.
Well, let me read it here from the NDIS here. Is a short-term accommodation related to your disability? We can only fund short-term accommodation if it relates to your disability support guides. If your family or informal supports can support you for longer. You might not need as much support in the future. It helps you maintain functional capacity. It helps you increase your independence. It helps you do more activities. There you go. We wouldn't fund short-term accommodation for longer-term accommodation, as this is a day-to-day living cost that everyone is expected to pay, and accommodation for another reason. For example, waiting for home modifications to be done. So, yeah. And also for children as well. Children, STA for children as well, yes.
And that's another issue is we have such an issue with accommodation. I think Australia-wide, but certainly in Queensland, medium-term accommodation or short-term accommodation rentals is so hard. So being able to use this funding, you may as well come and if you're waiting for your house to be finished to be built. And I think you said recently, there's only 3% of those that are on NDIS funding that need special needs within a house, meaning
6% of
6%.
NDIS participants will actually be approved for specialist disability accommodation.
So they need the extra wide doors, they need the special bathrooms, they need that. But that still leads...
It's difficult for somebody to be SDA approved. Yeah. That's why there's a lot of like SDAs out there sitting empty, because the NDIA will fight back and say, no, this is the living arrangement that you are going to have. And then if that isn't what, that person, that individual, that, person living with a disability wants for themselves, then they have to go through the tribunal. And that's only if they've got the right support surrounding them, like an amazing, specialist support coordinator, an amazing plan manager, an amazing, occupational therapist. If you've got this, this team around you, then yes, you can achieve positive outcomes. But a lot of people don't even know to ask questions. And don't know who to ask those questions to.
It's about asking the right questions. And that is the thing, is often you just don't have the capacity to know what are the questions I need to ask. And also, I don't know what I need. Yeah. Truly, yeah. We're so worried about caring about everyone else. You don't know what you need, and that's again where a company being able to provide this breakaway. You dial 111 saying, "Help! I want to do something special."
So, what is the actual process to access one of these amazing luxury accommodations?
Well, first they would contact our office. We would work with a provider, a care provider. If their participant has contacted us, we'd ask the care provider to confirm if they have short-term accommodation approval in their plan. If great, then yes, we proceed. We're looking at asking their provider to quarantine the funds for that said period of time. So the NDIA pays a daily amount, could be per day. Monday to Friday is about $1,700, which includes care and accommodation and food. Saturday is probably $2,500, Sunday is $3,000. So it depends on what day you book it for and how many days you go for. Maximum 2 weeks, minimum 1 day. Okay. Our office, who is experienced in travel and tours as well, the ladies in the office here, 3 of them, they can assist with booking where they want to go, when they want to go, and what did they want to do for activities on their stay. They may want to go in and sit there for 2 days and just relax and do nothing. That's fine. They might want to come for a hospital visit, doctor's appointment from the region into the city and stay here for 3 days for a visit to the doctors. They may want to come into the city from Melbourne, down up to Brisbane here and enjoy the Sunshine State and do the activities and the events and the football and shopping and everything else. and we'll work out what is required for all those activities, flights, transport, food, other carer costs as well. Are they bringing a carer? Are they not bringing a carer? Do we need to find a backup carer? Because a support worker cannot work 24/7, so day shift, night shift kind of support worker. Are they bringing other family members? Whatever it is, we'll have to figure out, do the budget and work out if they want a itinerary, we'll help prepare for that. We'll work with a host like Storme and figure out what she has available in the Luxury Respite products they have there, and then work out an availability and go from there. So that's how that would go, pretty much, I think, yeah.
It's like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, because Debbie and Donna used to be travel agent Donna, our office manager, used to be travel agent. Debbie used to be for 15, 20 years a tour guide overseas, tour guide.
Oh, brilliant.
Travel manager. Yep.
Tour guide, yeah. And then Heather, who's our QA manager here, she is also a Nepal trekker tour guide as well. Just came back in January. 12 trekkers with her in Nepal, up the mountains. So our office is all about tours, travels, and has that service background. And that's what I envisioned 2 years ago when I hired all these staff. That one day when we roll out the STA service via other brands, right? We will have that capacity to handle this kind of inquiry. And by meeting more like-minded individuals like Storme and John, the owner of the properties, and yourself, Nat, we can all collaborate, share our resources and experience to deliver that experience one person, one day at a time. And that's it. So,
accessible experiences.
Yeah. And since we began this journey 2 years ago, only recently in the last 3-4 months have we had more and more inquiries from word of mouth. Hey, I have a house. Hey, I have a brand new apartment. I have, and they're hearing about what we're doing here. And obviously, it's a slow process. It's getting awareness, because we all know without the properties there is no bookings, right? So properties first, bookings come second. So we need to line up the who wants in, and then photos, videos, summary, promotion online, getting awareness out there, and then slowly they start coming in, dripping over the bookings. So that's how that works. And we've done this and that. Me and Debbie helped another colleague of mine to set up another respite online service. Fortunately and unfortunately. So fortunately, it's been running for a year and a half now, and he's been getting 5 to 6 bookings a month for the last 18 months.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he's done nothing with those bookings.
Hang on, say that again. That was really fast.
So fortunately, when this concept came to mind with me and Deb and this other person, he said, I want to do this. So we helped to build a website, build a brand awareness for him to get bookings for Respite. 5, 6 per month for the last 18 months.
But he hasn't done them?
For the last 18 months, he hasn't followed up on any booking inquiry.
Why?
Because he's busy doing real estate work.
But see, that's why John's got me. And that is the difference. And look...
Wait, let me rephrase it. He had no product to give. Yeah. So the passion, the mindset, the purpose is fine, but if you have nothing to put them in, you can't take the bookings. Whereas here, Storme, vision first, agree, product is already there, now we've got to bring them over one by one. So you need two. You need bookings and the product.
And that's what we've now got. Yeah. And the third thing is also the awareness is letting people know who are under NDIS funding that this is available to you. And also, there was a third thing you mentioned there, and it was something I was talking to one of my lovely ladies who services my properties has come out of, 2 of them, in fact, out of domestic violence situations, and they are on disability pensions. So they work with me, and they are the most beautiful women. But they said to me, people don't understand unless you've been through it. And I think that's something that John and I really can provide, is we get it. So when Debbie or Donna rings us and says, we've got mum, dad and daughter coming, daughter really wants to go to the Pink concert, we would love, we're out in rural Queensland, we would just how do we do this? It's having someone who understands and can take it away. And that's what you're doing different now. And I know there are a lot of, because of course, you know, Facebook and social media listens to everything. So there's ads coming up all the time now. I think that understanding and empathy is something that there'll be a lot of companies that'll be advertising to come and do luxury respite escapes, but do they really get what we need? And that's something that I know that you and Debbie are going to be providing that is different.
Yeah. Well, we are merely the messenger between the participant and their family to the host. We're bringing awareness to the community. That's all we're doing. So, you know, can't take any credit here, Storm. I'd love to take the credit, but I can't. All we've done is done research and to bring awareness to the community. Now, fortunately, again, I'm about to buy that website and all that database from that individual to bring it over to this, to say, hey, sorry for the 1 year delay in the, but we have product here. You want to, and that,
well, it's created interest.
Yes.
You've got, you know, pre-books like people.
And the communication, and that's something, again, why John and I work together. We call ourselves business partners because I'm 24/7. As soon as someone messages, I'm answering them straight back.
She got 24/7, I'm 24/7.
Yeah, no, you are. I said one night we were emailing, it was both 11 o'clock at night, and I said, Min, what are you doing? It's 11 o'clock at night, and he said, well, what are you doing?
You are a workaholic. I swear.
Yeah, but it's the quiet, that's when the kids are asleep, and that's when I can actually work. But, you know, I think that people need quick responses as well, and that's what you're talking about with this other person is you can have the property, you can have the inquiry, but it's got to be live, it's got to be actioned, it's got to be happening.
And be a resource to deliver it. That's the other thing.
Absolutely.
Now, this is my analysis of the respite sector in Australia. The reason why and I said to Debbie, why are there only 20 companies in Australia doing this around Australia? 20. And we couldn't figure it out. Then Rob and I, my colleague, we started doing the numbers. So the time delay, before there was plan managers where they pay straight away, right? Self-managed, plan managed, agency managed, right? There's always delays in payment. So you got to pay for to travel and the food and the carer and the accommodation. That's money up front. You're paid now for the booking. Like, you know, Airbnb, you pay now.
Yes.
Even though it's 5 months away, it's now. So when you're working with accommodation services, that's negative cash flow in advance. And the reason why you can't do that is because if you're a single operator working from home, doing this little respite stuff out there, you're negative. You're not making much money and if they don't pay, you're negative red.
Yeah.
So this is a tough sector to penetrate because you're limited by availability of stock, what is out there to be used for respite, and cash flow by the guys paying it. So that's the challenges thus far. Unless you're resourced to handle that. Now, how are we resourced? We have a large team. We have people who are in travel. We are a disability business. We're cashed up, I think.
Because that was going to
we can renegotiate terms with our vendors, being the owners of these properties, right? And also working with these plan managers to work with the right plan managers who pay immediately within 2 or 3 days. So, you know, I would understand why it's hard for a single operator woman out there doing her bookings for respite with. They're the challenges right there.
Can I ask that question? Because that is an interesting one. So I manage short-term accommodation bookings. So let's say someone books through Airbnb. They pay Airbnb straight away. The booking isn't for 4 months. Airbnb hold that money because they're holding the accommodation that we get paid after the guest has arrived. So let's say I'm on an NDIS funding. I ring Debbie and I say, right, this is what we need. How long does it take for the money to come through from the NDIS program? Because that's what you're talking about.
After the event's finished, the trip.
So your company would be taking the risk and paying up front. So that's a very, and that's, so now I'm understanding. I ring up and I say, this is what I want. and it costs $15,000. Let's use the Courier Mail's article, $15,000 because they didn't account for the carers and all of that, the other things that are associated with NDIS participants. But that $15,000, you can't pay that up front. So it takes 3 or 4 months for the funding to come through. So you're actually booking that, all of that, and paying out of pocket for us until our funding comes through. And that's a key difference, again, that if you were booking and having to pay like Airbnb.
But if you're going through, you guys are getting me a little confused here. And yes, I do have blonde hair, but it's not down to that. If an NDIS participant has been approved short-term accommodation in their plan, the funding is there.
Within 24/7?
Yes.
Yeah, but you cannot touch that until the event's occurred.
So you can't book. So if I want to book for 6 months ahead for a concert,
But guess who's paying for all that? The trip, the transport, the food, the carer, the accommodation, the deposit. Then they're saying paying that. When it's fit, then you can be invoiced up front, but until they come to the 7-day trip, or nothing's been paid until after it's all finished. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
So there's negative cash flow from day before it even happens.
so that would make it hard for people.
Generally when there's an invoice.
Wait. You buy tickets, that's a year in advance. Let me remind you, concert tickets are a year in advance.
So Pink is nearly already sold out.
Flights are a month in advance. That's upfront payment. Then they're saying paying that.
So let's say
Well, they wouldn't necessarily. I think, okay, you've got to work very, very closely with, support coordinators.
I know, but the point is, until it happens, there's no payment. That's the point.
But if you've got an invoice, you can provide that to your plan manager.
But still, they haven't arrived to come to the event yet. They haven't come to the accommodation. You can't take money from something that's never happened yet. Let's be honest, it's common sense. I can't bill someone for a concert a year later. I can't get money for a flight that's in 5 months' time. I can't do that. You cannot do that. It happens after it's all finished.
So that's another question. And again, this is all education for people who are under the program. So let's say my family A wants to go to the Pink concert next year.
In 9 months' time.
9 months' time. They book the tickets now.
And they're from Melbourne.
Are they allowed to book them through the NDIS funding?
Well, see,
Does that come under respite care?
it's up to
highly unlikely.
The answer is no, right? The provider provides the whole itinerary.
And so this is where you come in. This is from what I'm hearing. So I come and I say, I'm from Melbourne. I want to come up to the Pink concert, bring my autistic daughter. She, loves it, severely autistic, but we need care. She needs 24/7 care. Can you book the tickets for me? Do all the things, book the flights, do all of that. But then you'll organise with the provider as a one package invoice.
Now, I know for a fact the respite cost does not fund travel. Travel is paid for by the participant's own cost, okay? That's a fact. However, if I'm willing to do that myself from my own pocket, that's my prerogative. That's number one. But I'm paying it from day one, not 9 months down the track.
And that's what's going to make you different.
Yeah. So the point is, this is about mathematics. I'm not talking about what's right or wrong. Nothing's for free. Everything you book costs money, 10% or upfront. It's hard to enter the sector because there's so much money payable for the hours for the care, the food cost, the travel cost, everything costs money. So in order to provide for this participant booking in a month's time, somebody has to pay for most of the things, right? So, and unfortunately, you can't. The provider or ourselves cannot bill the NDIA or the participant now. Because if I was in the issue, I'd say, hey, I'm not paying you nothing. I haven't turned up yet. This is in a month's time. I'll pay you for my plan when it's finished. And that's how that works.
So that would be the still provider's choice as to whether or not they.
No, the still provider provides the support workers, right?
Yeah.
They may be coming. They may not be coming. I'll give you an example. The easiest way is to give you an example, right? Someone calls us, hi, I'm a participant's parent. I'm going away for my anniversary, my wedding anniversary. My child has never been to the Gold Coast ever. But they have family in Brisbane. So we'd like to book a week away for our child to come up, who's 25 years old. The carer's not coming. So can I arrange for my daughter to fly up to Brisbane to be in East Brisbane near their grandpa who's in Kangaroo Point? Can you provide a carer? Yes, we can. Can you provide accommodation? Yes, we can. Can you provide food? Yes, we can. Can you provide transportation? Yes, we can. And when she's there, she actually wants to go to the Lions football at AFL in Gabba. Yes, we can. Can I make a booking with you? Yes, you can. Can I ask Mrs. Parent whether your child has STA funding? Oh, what's that? Oh, so you've never heard of STA funding? Respite? No, I don't. Have you heard of core funding? Yeah, we have that. Okay, well, did you know you can tap into that to make a booking for short-term accommodation? No, I didn't. So who do you use for your plan? Oh, we have a plan manager. Okay. Go talk to your plan manager about your core funding, how much you have, whether you can use that for short-term accommodation respite. If the answer is yes, let me call back and let's talk about that. What can be done for your child? If there's not enough funds there, we can do a weekender trip as well. So unfortunately, you've got to confirm all that information before we can help you out. That's how I would handle the conversation. Right? And that's the majority of the inquiries from this website we've seen are those scenarios there. Yep.
So in this respite care, they say flights can't be included.
Correct.
So how...
So as I was saying, it's a very complex area. We hope that our listeners here today can appreciate that a lot of topics have to be covered here. Carers, parents, the families and participants for short-term respite accommodation. But Natalie, before we finish off, any words of advice from you to any providers out there who have not really thought about this for their participants as a service?
I guess have a really good chat, with either the plan nominee, the guardian, OPG, because there could be numerous people involved in providing care for an individual. Speak to support coordinators because they will really be able to break down how they can creatively utilise the funding and as to whether or not they're approved for short-term accommodation to be able to utilise these accommodations.
And Storm, any final words of advice from you as a parent who has a child on the spectrum? May not be on NDS at the moment, but will be eventually, I guess.
We're starting the process, yes.
Any words of advice for you, from you to other parents out there about the respite topic?
That we should be utilising it because self-care is when, it's a bit like being on the plane. If the plane's going down, you put your own mask on first. And I think that's what we need to look at. And this is where, whilst we're calling it Luxury Respite Escapes, we're doing that because that's what we are worthy of. And it is respite, and that's the key word. And being able to provide that escape is luxury.
My final words of advice, everyone listening, is more so to the participants' families, is in 2022 October, the NDIA changed the rules to allow for participants to tap into their core funding for respite, short-term accommodation. Why would they do that? To make it easier for families and participants to utilise their services and the funding, because the average participant funding is about $75,000 per year per participant. and 70% of that is being used. So 30% is being unused.
And the STA needs to be directly related to,
Goals.
yes, NDIS goals.
So 30% is a lot, but not being used. There's a lot left over. Yeah.
And it should be, because it will help with the overall. Thank you so much, Minh, for organising this, because it is great to talk with both you and Nat and the listeners and share these stories, because it is the empathy and knowing that other people, there's people that know what we need, there's people that know what you're doing, and there's people who can empathise.
I'm here to serve, Storm.
I know you are, and you do it so well.
Natalie, don't laugh at me.
I wish this was being filmed because you should have seen Min's face then.
My face is normal. Hey, listeners, my final words are: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah. Oh,
And
Min.
we care.
Oh.
We care.
Aww.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.